Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and it's a slightly red week, about 2.5%, 11,000. This has come mostly off the back of Solana dropping. Remembering, of course, that most of my Solana's in NFTs, so it's a little bit sort of different to this, of course. But yeah, some of the sort of Solana ecosystem coins have had a reasonably good week, which I'll come back to. A little down on Bitcoin, but it's still, 97,000. We're just in this sort of range, waiting for something more positive to happen. But yeah, not looking too bad. Hell of a lot of news. I do like to sort of try and bring some of the news that a lot of others won't really focus on necessarily. Tends to be sort of price focus stuff and moving averages. Are we going to get to 150k by X date? And yeah, I think there's more interesting stuff happening than that. But we got another positive coin shares report. Admittedly, tomorrow's isn't going to be, which we'll come to in a second. But yeah, got 1.3 billion in total inflows for sort of the week before the one just gone. Again, on quite heavy on Ethereum. 793 million of inflows, quite a bit outstripping, almost double the Bitcoin inflows at 407. Multi-asset, 14 million, quite good. 11 million of Solana, that's pretty good. It's been negative some of the last few weeks. And another 21 million into XRP, still the biggest inflowing alt. So surprising. 4.3 million on Sui as well. Not seen Sui on this chart before. It must be sort of some relatively new funds, although 350 million in AUM, so it is reasonably big already. And 2.6 million into Cardano. People still love Cardano. 5.9 million into others as well. So you've got sort of Chainlink and various others in there. By country, it was almost all a green sweep, apart from a small outflow from Hong Kong. A fairly large inflow to Brazil. They don't normally get to double figures. Canada, Germany, both sort of fairly large. Switzerland, quite large. And of course, the US. But I'm guessing we're going to have pretty much a red wall on the next report, judging by the Bitcoin inflows for this week. So you've had 4 days out of 5 red, net inflow from net outflow from pretty much everyone. You had some small inflows into BlackRock, which can't really fight sort of the rest of this red. You had one outflow from BlackRock, 22 million, but yeah, everything's in double figures as opposed to triple figures. And then yeah, Fidelity sort of seeing quite a bit of outflow. Arc, well, Fidelity more than Arc. I sort of call Arc the emotional investors, but 2 days they had a net zero, which I suppose is quite positive. But yeah, an awful lot of red this week. I say red, it's red on Bitcoin. The Ethereum side has been sort of, I suppose you'd say, quieter, but people sort of a bit less willing to dump their coins quite so immediately. There's obviously far less in these. You've got BlackRock, sort of, they've had 4.4 billion of inflows, but they've had no outflow days, for the last sort of 3 weeks. And one small outflow from Fidelity, sort of overshadowed by their two inflows Thursday and Friday. Continued outflows from Grayscale, but no surprise there. No inflow into the mini Grayscale for sort of 2 weeks nearly. But yeah, so net, it's sort of pretty much a wash. Slight outflow by the looks of it, sort of 10, 15 million. But yeah, certainly not what the Bitcoin ETFs have had. So Ethereum faring a little better. And you have had people filing, I think 21 shares filed for staking to be added to their ETF. So if they were allowed it, I expect you get everyone suddenly be allowed it. And then I think you would see a reasonable amount of inflow into these, because I think some sort of institutional investors could probably just hire one person to make sure their self-custody is sort of done securely and stake it themselves and sort of get that yield. It was always sort of touted before these came out by certainly like by the Bloomberg guys as sort of a tech investment with a nice yield, which you don't normally get. And if you're not getting that yield, then thesis broken. Looks like we're back on the weekly Michael Saylor MicroStrategy investment, or strategy as they're now called. A little bit silly. But yeah, they've acquired 7,633 Bitcoin, so it's quite a bit bigger than the last sort of few purchases that they made. Obviously nothing last week, but they were getting 100 million, 200 million, so back to 740 million. Bought at 97,255, so they're not sort of buying the peak top, and they have risen their average price to $65,033. So still, I guess, a fairly healthy level. I keep sort of noting the other companies that are now starting this strategy. Obviously, they're not getting the coins that MicroStrategy was buying years and years ago, so their average will be 95, 100, 105,000 maybe, depending on when they were buying. So that's a bit more of a risk come the bear market. I think MicroStrategy should still be okay, potentially in the bear market, which is good. So we're getting even more bullish executive appointments from Donald Trump. He had Jonathan Gould as serving in the office of the Comptroller of the Currency in his last administration, and he's reappointed him. But it looks like in the meantime, he spent a stint as Chief Legal Officer for Bitfury. So a sort of Bitcoin miner / infrastructure firm. So obviously people are saying this as enormously bullish. You could sort of take the flip side and say like Chief Legal Officer could essentially be anywhere. You could be, some people sort of say it's similar to accounts. You could be working for accounts at a Bitcoin miner or McVitie's Biscuits, and it sort of doesn't really make that much difference. So you could say he could have been Chief Legal Officer for any firm, and he's just dealing with the legal side. But I think working at a Bitcoin miner has to be somewhat positive. For those unsure, a little bit like me, on exactly what the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency does, it's sort of seen as a less important appointment for Trump and for sort of any president, really. You look for your Treasury secretaries and SEC commissioners and people like that first. But they charter, regulate, and supervise all national banks and federal savings associations, as well as federal branches and agencies of foreign banks. So, yeah, quite bank heavy. The OCC is an independent bureau, as much as any sort of government department really is independent. But yeah, interesting sort of considering choke point. They sort of add that Gould wants fair banking access for crypto firms, and he opposes choke point 2.0, as sort of has been noted very recently. It's more and more truths coming out that we kind of already knew, but just weren't made public. He said in March 2023 in a testimony that the regulatory action at the time could be having a chilling effect on banks' ability to engage in crypto, dampening their willingness to entertain or maintain digital asset entities as banking customers, which we kind of know. It was basically you do crypto or you even accept money from a crypto company, do a transaction with a crypto company and you are debanked. He has this sort of, they're saying, comes in a string of nominees with ties to the crypto industry. Brian Quintenz has been nominated for chair of the Commodity Futures and Trading Commission. Used to be working at the crypto arm of A16Z with Mark Andreessen. So that's pretty strong. And February the 11th, nomination of John Hurley as Treasury's Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Crimes. So he would oversee the terrorist and crime fighting arm, and they note that he has made Bitcoin investments personally, or Bitcoin related investments. So likely has a measured approach to crypto. So yeah, I mean, you've got to say, Trump is kind of following through on his, pledge to be fairly strong for the crypto industry. I think people were hoping he just comes in day one, starts buying 200,000 of Bitcoin, a month or a year or whatever people were hoping for. But that's not really possible. I would say he's doing an awful lot of what he's allowed to do, really, straight away. Sort of highlighted DeFi Llama not so long ago, basically saying that things were looking positive on a sort of TVL and stablecoins front, and I do think it's worth just sort of highlighting, even through this sort of Ethereum bear market, I suppose you'd call it. I think it is down, over 20%, so officially a bear market, but we're not really in a crypto bear market. But, TVL is still on the up. You look at sort of February, it's come up to 52 million ETH. And yeah, they were at sort of 40, 47, 48 2 weeks ago, basically. So yeah, 4 million ETH in a fortnight. It's sort of a decent amount. You've seen stable coins sort of rising as well. We know stable coins have been on the up, and a lot of that is coming on Ethereum. So 2 weeks ago, 117 billion. It's up to 123 billion. So 6 billion in just 2 weeks. And yeah, Solana, we're seeing TVL sort of not moving a huge amount. I guess slightly trending up. It was sort of touching 100 million a few weeks ago, and it's now sort of solidly above 100 million, 103, 104. Fees looking pretty good as well, and stable coins sort of did take a small dip, but obviously it's been almost vertical through January, so can have a little dip, but lost about 1 billion of stable coins and has started sort of slowly rising since. But yeah, I think bearishness in Ethereum may be going a little bit too far, because fundamentals still look okay, really, even if they're not getting a lot of fees. Thought this was interesting. MasterCard tokenizing 30% of their transactions in 2024. They're sort of been doing various trials, them and Visa really, and that they see stablecoins as competition. So obviously MasterCard and Visa still put through the largest amount of transactions in the world, basically, and sort of dominate quite hard in America. But they are seeing stablecoins. They acknowledge stablecoins and other cryptocurrencies are emerging competitors. They said digital currencies have the potential to disrupt traditional financial markets and may challenge its existing products. So they've been looking to put more on the blockchain, and yeah, have been tokenizing various sort of assets and payments. If you take all stablecoins collectively, they totaled $27.6 trillion in annual volume, surpassing the combined volumes of Visa and MasterCard. So that's quite strong. It should obviously be noted that isn't a higher number of transactions. That is a higher volume. So it's far, far less transactions. People aren't buying a coffee with stable coins, although a lot of people, I believe, are doing smaller amounts for sort of remittance, sending $100 or $50 back home. But a lot of stablecoin volume is, sending $5 million somewhere. So yeah, it's a lot fewer transactions, but a lot higher, higher dollar amount. But even so, $27 trillion is an awful lot of volume. Seeing more banks and firms getting into crypto as well. Taurus, it's a digital asset infrastructure firm, but backed by Deutsche Bank. So, yeah, reputable firm. Deutsche Bank have been going bust for, I think, about 20 years now, but still seem to sort of stave that off. And yeah, they're launching this on Solana. So quite interesting. Solana obviously been pushing, NASDAQ on chain since the beginning, and we're starting to get, companies like this launching a sort of real world assets tokenization platform for equity, debt, structured products and funds, all sorts really. CBDCs, don't want that obviously, but yeah, it's probably coming inevitably, whether we like it or not. Saying minting financial and tangible assets on the blockchain improves accessibility and liquidity. So, Christmas Day, you can trade these, you can get, Indians and Chinese and, well, maybe not Chinese, but pretty much whoever you like. If they have the internet, they can buy, US treasuries, they can buy Tesla stock. That's sort of the idea of the future, that we're not bound by sort of US trading hours. I think they're already sort of Wall Street's already looking to sort of counter that by having 24/5, not 24/7 trading hours, similar to sort of what Trading 212 do. But yeah, it seems like the crypto industry is pushing and sort of forcing Wall Street to sort of modernize at least, and yeah, giving them a run for their money. So noted stablecoins were getting more use, and this is prompting David Sachs, the crypto czar, to make their one of their first priorities stablecoin legislation. So from what I understand, a few different stablecoin bills, different versions of stablecoin bills, sort of have been going through US Congress, and it looks like they're sort of trying to sneak in through the back door some pretty harsh clauses around it that would essentially make it unworkable. Somebody pointed out that if somebody told you that it was written by the sort of US Banking Association, they wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, there's some sort of Elizabeth Warren type still trying to scupper the industry, basically. But yeah, you can't ignore this, can you? It sort of obviously took a little bit of a dip in 2022, and on the USDC side, even in 2023. But yeah, on the Tether side, it's just constantly ramping up, and at least USDC, certainly since the Trump election, has been rocketing up. And obviously, the larger these grow, the more US see this as a sort of source of funding for US treasuries, since obviously all of this, there are euro-based stablecoins and sort of pound-based ones, but they're completely irrelevant. It's not even 1% of the market. So, yeah, stablecoin market being at 233 billion, with them buying almost all short-term treasuries, which is what they've been issuing for the most part. They're not interested in the longer run stuff, but yeah, presumably you've got pension funds and people more interested in those. But yeah, if they want to sort of keep issuing short-dated stuff, then stablecoin issuers are a market for that. So you might as well think, let's make life a little bit more friendly to them. So, talking of Tether, we've been sort of posting all year that Tether are making a fortune. They got so much money they don't know what to do with it, and they've started investing in completely non-crypto focused stuff. They've taken a minority stake in Juventus Football Club, a Italian Serie A football club. Not exactly the dominant force in Italy that they used to be, but maybe that has sort of caused them to drop in price, sort of to a point that, yeah, Tether want to make an investment. They're now the world's 11th most valuable football franchise at $2.05 billion. So I guess worth noting that Tether could, probably buy the whole club outright with about 4 months maybe of treasury interest. Not that they would want to sell, but does kind of put into perspective how big they are getting. Tether could sort of quite easily buy a whole football club if they wanted to sell, just with interest on those treasuries. So a little bit crazy, but they've said that they're interested in taking stakes in other clubs, and they can sort of use this as sort of, I guess, a little bit like sponsorship, but it's obviously better than sponsorship in that with sponsorship you're just giving away your money to them to get your name on the shirt, for example, whereas, buying a stake in the company is obviously an investment that you keep, and you can sort of have influence. You can, have them maybe put your name everywhere, and the money isn't just gone. So I see this as a hell of a lot better than just sort of sponsoring football clubs like a lot of other companies have been doing, and sort of, sponsoring stadiums and all that. We had the crypto.com stadium and the FTX arena, and we don't want that. But a very profitable company taking a stake in a firm, I would say, is a lot better. And lastly, I suppose the bit of fun news, although it's not fun that for anyone that invested in this, but BitConnect is, I didn't realise, still being investigated, and Indian authorities have been able to seize 190 million of crypto tied to the scheme. So yeah, back from, collapsed in 2018. You may, if you were there back then, you may remember sort of 2017, everyone posting their videos and their wallets, around this sort of Ponzi scheme, a pretty classic Ponzi scheme. It was taking, new investors' money to pay out interest to existing people, and you get sort of YouTube videos saying, I'm earning a fortune, and they were offering 1% a day in interest for how much you had in there, and people were obviously taking that interest and re-putting it back in to compound that rather than taking the interest. So yeah, even the people that were making money often ended up losing out because they were just reinvesting everything that they were making, and saying that they were making a fortune, of course. But they seized 190 million of crypto, $15,000 and a car and some electronic devices. I think that is largely sort of overshadowed by 190 million of crypto. But yeah, who knew the Indians were still sort of going after them. So looking at our coins for the week, as I say, it's been quite a mixed bag. Bitcoin down 1.4%, so yeah, relatively flat, I suppose. Solana down 6.6%. Ethereum is pretty much flat, down about 0.3%, so I guess you could say that's outperforming, although it's fallen a hell of a way. Chainlink down 0.9%, that's done all right. Jito up 18%. So, as I say, some of these Solana ecosystem coins doing reasonably well. Radium is basically flat. Helium token up 4.8%, although obviously that's fallen a fair way from where it was. Metaplex up 11%. That's doing quite well for me now. It is in the green since I bought. And honey is down 12%, so that is one that hasn't been doing particularly well. It is sort of down. Them and radium are down 24% now. But obviously these aren't exactly huge positions, and I do have quite a bit more to invest. I've sort of possibly looking at about £6,000 to invest, so I'm not terribly bothered that these are down. And it's obviously worth pointing out that the tokens that I sold, your polygons, VeChains, and all of them sold to invest in these are also down since that time. So I wouldn't call it a particularly poorly timed investment. I think I'm sort of pretty much flat to possibly even up on the deal, if you like. I've lost less than I would have lost staying in those tokens. So yeah, interesting, and I might be making an investment shortly. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.